Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to the speaker and participants joined in the webinar session. As part of Pollinator Week, we are going to have a webinar on pollinator in nature by the speaker, Sri Haneesh K.M. A brief introduction note about our speaker. Basically, he is from Kerala, working as an assistant professor in electrical engineering department at Christ University, Bangalore Kengeri campus. He likes to watch nature and actively participate in recording biodiversity in the region. He is one of the founder member of Banglore Butterfly Club, the group which is systematically recording the biodiversity of butterflies in Bangalore during the last 8 years. He is also instrumental in connecting academic community with the public through various citizen science platforms and social media platforms. The talk covers process of pollination, methods of pollination, major pollinators, economic value of pollination, conservation efforts for pollination. Over to you, sir. Please begin the topic.
Okay. So, thank you. Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. Okay. So, thank you for the introduction. So, I'll be talking on some of the pollinators in nature, and I'll be talking on something on the importance of the pollinators in nature and how we can protect them, okay, and how we can conserve them. So thank you, the Indira Gandhi Zoological Park, Visakhapatnam, for giving me a chance during the pollinators week to talk on this particular topic. So before beginning, so I'll just tell I am not from a biologic background. So actually, my only qualification is I watch nature, and mainly I was looking for the butterflies and some amount of moths in this, but in the southern India. Okay. So that is my experience. So today I'll be talking some basic the concepts on the pollination and how the pollinators will be helping us. Okay. So and these are the contents. Okay, so we'll be going through the pollination mechanism, different methods for pollination. Okay, so the biotic pollination and the impact of pollinators on ecosystem and the economical values of pollinators and the what are the different threats faced by this pollinator, and also we'll be looking on what are the conservation effects in which we can take to the conserve these pollinators in the nature. Okay. So that's about the introduction. Okay. So coming back into the main thing, it is we are calling it is pollination. Okay. So mainly all the plants, all the trees, even all the animals, birds, everything. So they're one of my their major aim is to reproduce. Okay, so they need to continue the generations. So the major the thing what they are doing is they'll try to reproduce. Okay, so in the trees and the plants, the reproduction is happening through this pollination. Okay. So most of the angiosperms, the flowering plants and animals, so they'll be trying to reproduce through this pollination. Okay. So pollination basically means all this the flowering plants. So in their the flower, they'll be having some male the pollens, okay, and there is something known as the stigma, that is the female part of the plant and the flower. Okay, so when from the pollen grains, the pollen has to reach into the stigma, and that is how it gets fertilized, and finally that once it is fertilized, it will be converting slowly into the fruits or berries or nuts, or finally it will be becoming the seeds. Okay, so that is how it is the continuing then generation, or the plants are reproducing. So this is the most important part in their life, because they are the one of their main aim in their life is to reproduce. Okay. So the pollination is an important process in their any plant's life. So the actually the pollination is happening in different ways. Okay, some of the flowering plant itself, they'll be pollinating themselves. Okay, so that means the same flower will be having both the male and female parts. Okay, and the pollen is reaching in the stigma, so it will be automatically fertilized. So some of the plants are the self pollinating, but in most of the other plants, there needs to be some agent or some vector to take the pollens from the male in the parts to the into the female part of the flower. Okay, so that is the place where you need the pollinators or some pollinating agents. So in biological term, it will be usually calling it as some vectors. So you need to have some vectors to transfer the pollens from the pollens to stigma. Okay, so the I mean because this pollination, if it is from same plant, okay, or same the flower, so the genetic quality will be less. Okay, if it is like inbreeding. So the if it is from a different plants or a different the individual plants, okay, then the genetic diversity will be better, and the chance of survival is better. Okay, so that is why they are depending on some other agents to take the pollen into the stigma. So they'll be depending on some other the insects or some other mechanism. So the pollination always recur, or in most of the cases they recur some external agents. Okay, so the we are told this is happening through different mechanism. Okay, so I mean when we are talking on the insects, so insects are also looking for their food. Okay, so when they are going to each flower or each flower but to look for the honey or the pollen grains. Okay, so when they are going, so their interest is only for food. Okay, but this is an unintended consequence. The pollination is not intended, but it is happening naturally, because when they are going into the flower for honey or pollen, okay, so their body will be covered with the some pollen, and when they are going to the nest flower, so automatically this some of this pollen will be reaching into the stigma part of the nest flower. Okay, so that is how this pollination happening. So basically the pollinators are doing the pollination not intentionally. Okay, but it is happening as a unintended consequence. Okay, so this is how the pollination generally happens. Okay, and I told, okay, all the plants are not the recurring the pollinators. Okay, some of them are doing through the abiotic methods. That means they didn't require any living organism to spread the pollen from one flower to another. Okay, so that can be through air. Okay, so wind or even rain. Okay, so most of our agriculture crops like the rice, the maize, all that things. So mainly the pollen grains are transmitting through wind. Okay, or there will be male flowers, there will be female flowers. Okay, so through wind it will be automatically reaching into the female flower. Okay, or some plants in the water, so they'll be spreading the pollen through their water surface. Okay, and in some cases it is through rain. Okay, so in most, I mean, in all the cases, the pollinators are not a living organism. Some cases they will be through the wind, water, or rain. Okay, but in most of the cases, okay, around 80% of the angiosperms. Angiosperm means the flowering in the plants or trees. Okay, they'll be looking for some external agents. Okay, some living organism to spread their pollens. Okay, so to from picking pollen from one place to pick it in, put it in some other the plants or some other flower stigma. So that will be improving the genetic diversity, because when it is inbreeding on the same plant, so it will be reducing the quality of their the offspring or the coming generation. So that is why the angiosperms are looking for some pollinating agents. Okay, so this most of our the pollinating agents are the insects. Okay, but it is not always insects. Okay, sometimes it will be some other the I mean the uh, animals also. You can see that sometimes it will be some squirrels or some the bats, or sometimes it will be some frogs. So different types of mammals are also participating in the pollination. Okay, you can see some numbers here. Okay, around the 1 lakh to 2 lakh species of animal acts as pollinators in the worlds of around 2 lakh 50,000 species of flowering plants. Okay, so globally, out of the around 2.5 lakh the flowering plants, okay, around 80% of them are the depending on the some species of animal or insects. Okay, and the most of them are insects, because the insects having large diversity, they are having large numbers. Okay, so they are very close to the plants, so usually most of our pollinators are insects. Okay, but we have not only insects, we have the birds and mammals also visit the flowers. Okay, and they may be looking for some fruit, or they may be looking for some honey. Okay, so during that process, they'll be helping in the pollination also. Okay, so the the not only the birds and mammals. Okay, so you have the squirrels, the monkeys, lemurs, the rodents, and the different types of marsupials. They are helping the pollination. So the pollination is not only the job of insects. Okay, so a lot of other the living beings also participating in the plant pollination. Okay, so in that, there is an interesting story, and I mean, I thought of putting some interesting stories. So this is on the relationship between a long-nosed bat and the agave plants in Mexico. Okay, so you would have seen some such kind of plants. So this is a particular the plant they are cultivating in the Mexico. So why they are cultivating this plant is actually in their in the stem of this plant. Okay, there will be a lot of the starch storage. Okay, and they will the use this starch to make the particular liquor known as the tequila. So you maybe heard about that. So it's a world famous in the brand name. So they'll be making tequila out of this particular plant. Okay. So, but these plants were traditionally pollinated by the fruit bats. Okay, so there is a particular bat known as long-nosed bat. Okay, and actually usually this plant will be having long the stylus, and on that there will be a big flowers. Okay, and these flowers cannot be easily pollinated by any other insect or something, because this flower has the evolved in such a way that they need the bats to the pollinate them. Okay, so when this the tequila has become more popular and more cultivation started. Okay, so the when you are doing the commercial the cultivation of this agave, so uh, I mean, they will not allow this the plant to bloom. Okay, or before they are reproducing, they will cut down this their stem, and they will and they process it for making the particular liquor. Okay, so this I mean the before flowering, I mean, or by the time of flowering, they will be cut down all this agave, so that the bats are not getting the chance to pollinate them. Not only the chance to pollinate them, they are not getting the chance to have mean sufficient food. Okay, because their main source of the energy was this the nectar and the pollen from this particular plant. Okay, so once they mean the all the agave plants were cut before they are coming into the bloom. So this the bat population has come down drastically. Okay. So and there were very less number of bats to pollinate all these plants, but they'll cut down these plants before they are blooming. So eventually, what happened? So the they'll use the some cloning method to make these plants, the new plants. So they'll make some plants from the same the plant. Okay, so the genetical quality of that particular plants were less. Okay, so the bat number has already reduced. Okay, also the quality of the new generation of the plants also deteriorated because they are using some cloning methods to propagate that one. So they were more susceptible to some parasites and infections. So suddenly the lot of the infections came on this plant and their entire cultivation was affected. Okay, so I mean the actual thing happened was they denied the chance for the bats to pollinate them. So this has caused big damage to their the cultivation in the entire area. Now there are a lot of efforts are taking to slowly bring that batch, and the experimental results were encouraging. So they are getting better the plants, and they are getting better income. So this is one, I mean, association between the but one particular plant and bat. Okay, so here the bat was acting as a pollinator, but the when we are making it more and more commercialized, so it was it could damage the entire cultivation in the, and cultivation means a lot of people are working on it, so they'll be losing their the jobs, they'll be losing their the money on the I mean, investment on the cultivation, all that thing. So this is as a bat as a pollinator. So this is an example. Okay, and you can see that a lot of birds also involved in the pollination. You would have seen that the birds like the sunbirds, okay, the parrot, the premias, all that things, they'll used to visit all these the flowers. Okay, so while they are looking for nectar, okay, so they'll be taking some the pollen grains with them, so that will be helping in them propagating that pollen and to get the better the diverse genes of that particular plant. Okay, so in that when we are talking about the birds as pollinator, okay, so there is another a significant story came from the China. Okay, so this was happened in slightly go in 1958. Okay, when the Mao Zedong was the supreme leader there in China. Okay, so they wanted to I mean actually that time itself the Chinese population was bigger, so they need to have more the food. Okay, so because in order to feed the people, they need to have more food, so they need to have more agriculture, and they found that okay, they have some major pests. Okay, so and they identified that the four major pests. Okay, one is the rats. Okay, the rats are eating their the grains. Okay, and flies are attacking all their cultivation, and a lot of mosquitoes, that is the attacking the human. Okay, and also a lot of sparrows. The sparrows are, I mean, there were good number of sparrows. Okay, and sparrows are eating their food grains. Okay, so and they felt that, I mean, all these the four elements are pests and you need to control them. So if you can finish all these major four pests, okay, then they'll be having better the food, and they will be having better quantity of food, so there will not be any pests, so that I mean it will be easier for them to develop. Okay, so actually in 1958 the Mao's then they declared all these as pests and you need to kill all of them. Okay, so it was actually, I mean, it is in China, and he was a powerful leader, and also the people were the helping in all this campaign. So they were, I mean, the uncontrollably killing all these pests, especially the sparrows. Okay, and they were the continuing killing all these things. So finally, what happened when the sparrows were not there? So there were nobody to control the pest in their gardens or pest in their the cultivation. So it was actually badly affect their the agriculture. Okay, in quick time, in within, I mean, the 1 or 2 years. Okay, there the entire plantations were affected by the pest, and the outcome of that. One second, there's some disturbance. Okay. Okay, so I mean, the entire cultivation were affected by the lack of the sparrows there. Okay, so it was I mean, taken them into the famine-like situation. There were no food to supply to people. So even if you are trying to cultivate them, so the entire cultivation was eaten up by uh, these pests. So the eventually it was led into some the famine, and the it is estimated that the 15 million people died because of that, the shortage of food in during that period. Okay, and the and people are even saying this 15 million is not a very underestimate number. Okay, I mean, actual number will be much more higher than this 15 million. Okay, so they were killing the sparrows, so that has caused the death of more than 15 million people. Okay, so that is the importance of a one element in the ecosystem. Okay, it was a simple element. Okay, so these are the some pictures from that smart sparrow campaign. Some of the pictures I had taken from the website. Actually, they are planning for a situation where there were a lot of food. Okay, but in the actual, I mean, condition, so they reached into the famine and death. Okay, so in between they were killing all the sparrows wherever they are found. Okay, so finally they reached into the famine, and they were distributing the famine tickets for to help the people to get food and all. Okay, so that was the example from the China in 1958. Okay, so that is to highlight the importance of I mean, the one element in the ecosystem. Okay. Now I'll be talking something on the pollination syndromes. Okay, so actually the flowers are looking to attract various pollinators. Okay, so actually you'd they felt the color of the flowers are attracting, or the some of the flowers will be having good fragrance. Okay, so basically all these the things are to attract the pollinators. Okay, so they'll be the pollinators, or the insects. They'll be basically looking for the nectar or some food. So I mean, these flowers are I mean, evolved such a way that they'll be looking. I mean, they'll be trying to attract the pollinators. Okay, so I mean, they'll be giving out honey, but in times they'll be getting the pollinated from different source, so that their genetical quality will be better. Okay, so the flowers and the insects both are the evolved such a way that they'll be helping each other. So the flowers are came out such a way that the only certain kind of the insects or the pollinators can pollinate them. Okay, or that type of the pollinators will be looking for that particular kind of flowers, or the kind of plants for the getting nectar for them. Okay, so this is how the evolution has happened. Okay, you can see that in this picture. So the different types of the butterflies are coming into a particular plant. So I mean, they are able to attract that different kind of butterflies. Okay, but in certain plants, they'll be attracting only certain kind of the pollinators. here you can see in the middle picture, you can see that this particular butterfly has got a long the proboscis to which is shooting to this particular flower. Okay, so the normal small butterflies with the small proboscis cannot the suck the nectar from this long tube flower. Okay, so I mean they are attracting such flies. Okay, so that they'll be while they are drinking the nectar from them, so that they can actually they'll be helping some part of their pollen will be stuck into their the body parts. Okay, so when they are going into the some other flowers, okay, of the same kind, so they'll be transferring this pollen there. Okay, so and this is what is known as the co-evolution. So because the this plant is looking for a certain the insects which are having the long proboscis. Okay, so you can see that different examples here. So the shape of the flower or the length of the pollen tube will be different. Okay, so that they'll be able to and they will be able to pollinate them. Okay, so this is what is known as the co-evolution. Okay, so I mean, you can see that the different flowers or plants, they are, coming out in different shapes. Okay, some of them having the long pollen tube, some of them having bright colors, some of them having the strong smell. So, these are evolved such a way that they can attract a certain kind of the pollinators. So they'll be looking for certain bees or certain kind of the birds or certain kind of wasp, so that they'll be getting it pollinated with the help of them. So this is how all these plants are evolved. We can see some more examples here. Okay, so here you can see that different kinds of flowers and the different kinds of insects are the butterflies are the coming for nectar there. You can see that this one having a longer tube, okay, and a certain butterfly with a longer proboscis is trying to look for feeding nectar from it. Okay, and there are some smaller flowers. Okay, some of the butterfly with the smaller the proboscis is trying to take nectar from that one. Okay, so this is there is a species preference for the butterflies or the pollinators. Similarly, the flowers also looking for certain kind of the pollinators. So they'll be trying to attract certain species of birds or certain species of the insects. Okay, so there is a mutualism between them. So they'll be helping each other. So okay, so this is a bigger example. So this is a hawk moth. Okay, you can see that it is having a very long the proboscis. Okay, proboscis means the straw which is using to the suck the nectar from the flower. Okay, actually this is known as the Darwin's hawk moth. Okay, actually it is discovered in 1882. Okay, during the that period, the Darwin's age, actually it is discovered in 1882. Okay, in Madagascar. Okay, but this such a creature with such a long proboscis was actually predicted by the Darwin much earlier. Okay, around before it was the discovering. Okay, around 20 years before, it was predicted that there can be such a insect. Okay, because it has got a long proboscis. So actually the Charles Darwin was the predicted the existence of such a insect, because the there was a certain flower. Okay, it was known as the Star of Bethlehem. It is a certain orchid. Okay, so actually in the Darwin's the laboratory, some of his assistants brought a certain flower from the Madagascar. So while examining this flower, he felt that the pollen tube of this flower is around the 1 feet long. 1 feet means around 12-inch long. Okay, so then he was thinking that if the pollen tube is around 1 feet length, Okay, there should be some pollinator with a, a proboscis length, I mean, in the is with such a long proboscis. Okay, so actually he predicted there should be someone. Okay, there should be someone in the nature to pollinate this one. Okay, otherwise it would have been this much long. Okay, actually he predicted the existence of such a creature. Okay, but after 20 years they found this particular, they discovered this particular the hawk moth. Okay, with a with such a long proboscis. Okay, you can see that it is having a proboscis of 9 to 14 inch. Okay, so it is huge, okay, for a particular small moth. Okay, so this is how the flowers and pollinators are the co-evolved. Okay, so they are helping each other. So I mean, most of the cases they'll be co-evolving. Okay, so these are some more pictures. So the left one is, we'll call it as a hummingbird hawk moth. Okay, so actually it is a hawk moth. Okay, but it will be flying like a hummingbird. Okay, so it is a hummingbird hawk moth. Okay, and the another one is a skipper butterfly. Okay, but you can see that this their proboscis is suiting for that the type of flowers. Okay, this is an Ixora flower. Okay, which is having a long pollen tube. Okay, and you can see that this particular butterfly has got a very long proboscis. Okay, which can actually help in sucking the nectar from that flower, and also it will be helping to pollinate that particular flower. Okay, so this is how the flowers and their pollinators are the co-evolve. Okay, so they are evolving together so that they can help each other. Okay, so what we have seen is, I mean, there will be a lot of the plants, there will be a lot of pollinators, and they need each other. Okay, so for living them, so both these the creatures are required. Okay, and when the human beings are talking about this, the plants and the insects. Okay, so basically we'll be looking for the economical values of that one, whether they are the economically the significant. Okay, but if you are looking at, okay, so the economic value of pollinators, okay, the annual market value of crop production directly linked to pollination is, okay, you can see that it is around the 235 to 577 billion dollars. Okay, so that much huge, I mean, the impact on the economy, because the whatever you are the eating, so most of the I mean, your vegetables are, or I mean, the grains, food grains are coming from plants. Okay, so 75 to 95 percentage of all the flowering plants on the earth need help, I mean, help of some the agents for pollination, some living organism. Okay, so and out of that, the most of our the economically the significant the food crops. Okay, so whether it is vegetable, grains, or any other cash crop, so most of them require the some pollinators in nature. So whether it will be insects, birds, bats, or the some other animals. Okay, so most of them require some pollinators. Okay, that means, okay, one out of every three food items what you are getting needs some pollinators. Okay, so without pollinators, I mean, the our food production on the globe will be very minimal. Okay, so we are seeing that some plants like the your rice, the maize, all that may the pollinate with the wind, rain, and all. Okay, but not all. Okay, so I mean, most of them require some external agents or some insects to pollinate them. Okay, and the and not only the pollinator will be helping to create a, I mean, they are also part of uh, the food chain. Okay, so after plants, we are having large the diversity for the insects. Okay, or the small mammals. Okay, so they are the part of the food web. Okay, so they are supporting the ecosystem. So we need to protect them, or we need to identify their importance. Okay, so some more numbers from India. Okay, actually, the when you are calculating the economic values. Okay, so economic value of the pollinators. Okay, I mean how much revenue the pollinators are bringing. So some of these numbers are here. So basically in India, most of our oil crops are the pollinated by the different insects. Okay, so the rapeseed, mustard, oil seeds, so different fruits, vegetables. Okay, so the cotton, the different spices and condiments. Okay, and the yearly annual the economic value of this pollination. So that is we are putting it in crores. Okay, you can see that it is a huge number. Okay, when you are adding up all these things, you will be getting huge number. Okay, so every year the pollinators are generating this much revenue. Okay, so they are, economically also they are having the big impact. Okay, and they are not only the grains and vegetables, they are also important in the cash crops like the coffee, cocoa. Actually, in the picture you can see a coffee flower bud. Okay, so where it is the pollinated by a lot of bees. Okay, so and also they are providing a lot of income for the farmers. Okay, also they are creating a lot of the job opportunity for the farmers in the agriculture industry. So many are into cultivation, many are into the uh, into the food processing, all that thing. So if the pollination is not happening in this sector, so it will be billions of loss in terms of the output and also in terms of the job loss, all that things. Okay. Also, there are a lot of non-crop markets, okay, like the agriculture, forestry, food processing, etc. So that also is supported by the pollinators. Okay. And when you are talking about the pollinators, okay, one of the major pollinators are the bees. Okay. So why the importance of bees is actually they are having huge number. Okay, so in the ecosystem, the number of bees are very big. Okay, and they are having certain physics, so they will be. Uh, they can fly large distance. Okay, and their body is basically hairy, so they can carry more pollen. Okay, and their foraging behavior. Sometimes they'll be flying large distance. Okay, sometimes they'll be looking only for a certain species of plants. Okay, so the bees are one of the most important the pollinator. Okay, so and basically they are different types of bees we have. Okay, and they are also having the looking for different types of flowers. Okay, and the one of the main advantage of this the in bees are they are having a comparatively hairy body. Okay, so their legs and body are more hairy. So whenever they are sitting into certain flowers or they going into certain flowers, okay, so the pollen will be automatically attached to their body and it will not easily fall off. Okay, and easily fall off, so that they'll be going to the another flower, and the chances of the successful pollination is much higher when it is the bees are involved. Okay, so actually some of the pictures the you can see that this is a one particular flower. Okay, so actually this is known as the Singapore daisy. Basically it's a weed. Okay, but you can see that the different types of bees or flies are the attracted to this flower. Okay, and this these types of flowers, you can see that the it is evolved in such a way that okay, there is a space, there is enough space for the bees to sit there. Okay, there is enough space for the bees to sit there. Okay, and also in the it I mean they cannot sit in one place and sip the nectar. Okay, but instead there are many the pollen tubes, so they'll be moving around within the flower, so that it'll be definitely it will be ensuring the pollination. Okay, so that is how the actually the flowers and the bees are evolved. Okay, so there'll be there is enough place to sit, and there will be more nectar glands, so they'll be walking around, so it will be automatically the carrying some pollen from one flower, and when it is going to the other flower, it will be automatically getting it pollinated. Okay, so this is how the flowers are evolved. Okay, and not only bees. Okay, so there are a lot of other insects. You can see some more insects there, some hoverflies, wasps. Okay, some the day flying moths. Okay, some the carpenter bees. Okay, all these are the some other pollinators which are the helping the plants. Okay, and some more are in there. Okay, say a carpenter bee here. Okay, and there is a wasp, hoverfly, and you can see one cockroach here. Okay, so actually they are eating the flower petals. Okay, but still they'll be helping in pollination of the plants. Okay, and the some more the butterflies are nectaring on that particular same particular in the same plant. Okay, so it is known as the Singapore daisy, Wadelia indica. Or and actually, I mean, there are some moths and some butterflies are looking for nectar from that particular plant. Okay, and this is some one or two statistics from US. Okay, actually in the US there are a lot of crops. Okay, so they have I mean the habit of the keeping honeybees commercially also. Okay, so when you are keeping honeybees, okay, there is a chance for they'll be helping the pollination of that particular plant. Okay, also you will be getting better the I mean outcome from I mean the better output from the I mean honey. So I mean they have a habit of keeping the honeybee colonies. Okay, but you can see that this data from 1982 to 2015. So there is there was some sudden decrease in the bee colonies they were keeping. Okay, because this reduction in bee colonies because of if they I mean the plants which or the cultivation what they are doing was more monotonous. Okay, so that the diversity was less, and also they were getting less output from that the honey bee colonies. Okay, so there were a steady decrease in the number of bees they were keeping. Okay, and the then later they after 2000 and all they realized that there was something wrong, so there was some correction. Now slowly the bee colonies were slightly increasing up. Okay, and when you are introducing more and more bee colonies, okay, actually their revenue was increasing. Actually this chart is showing that the average dollar amount per colonies. Okay, when you are keeping more and more the bee colonies, okay, their income was getting better. Okay, you can see that there was always an increase in their income. Okay, so especially in some crops like this almond. Okay, so almond require the certain bees to pollinate them. Okay, so if that bees are not present there, the almond output were very less. Okay, and similarly it was the seen in the cranberries, blueberries, apple, pear, cherries, all that the crops require the certain bees. Okay, so that actually from this chart you can see that they are economically more significant. Okay, not only economically, so in order to get the fruits and vegetables you need to have the large number of pollinators. Okay, now you know the importance of pollinators. Okay, but the what is happening in actually, so that issues also most of the issues you are familiar with. Okay, one major thing is that the monoculture. Monoculture means we are cultivating only one kind of the agriculture. So you are looking for only one kind of plant. Okay, so that means this plant will be I mean coming into the bloom only yearly once or twice in a year. Okay, so these bees will be getting food only during that time. Okay, so all other in the months in the year they may not there may not be having sufficient food. Okay, so the bees will be struggling to survive because they don't have sufficient food in that particular area, especially when you are the planting in a larger area, so they'll be struggling to survive. Okay. So this monoculture is a big threat for the insects. Okay. Another thing is the pesticides misuse and overuse. So that you are very familiar with. Okay. Because the pesticides not only killing the pests, okay, they'll be killing most of the small insects and small creatures. Okay. And also it is reaching into the higher levels of food chain. Okay. So the pesticide misuse has actually impacted our environment very badly. Okay, and when you are going for the monoculture and certain kind of the particular agriculture only, okay, so they are more vulnerable for diseases because their genetic the diversity is less. Okay, so they are more vulnerable to new kind of diseases and parasites. Okay, so the number will be coming down very fast. Okay. And the clear cut logging means the when you are cutting down all the trees or all the plants in a particular area. So this happens sometimes. The entire forest area will be you'll be clearing off, and then you'll be starting some agriculture there. Okay. So that time the entire the insect in that area goes missing. Okay. And the very fast the suburban development. Okay. You can see that the rapid the urbanization in the suburban areas and all. Okay, so I mean you are cutting down all the vegetable, I mean vegetation there, and also you are cutting it down lot of trees there. So ultimately the insects will be trying, I mean will be finding it difficult to survive. Okay, and decline of beekeeping, the number of bees, if it is coming down, it is directly impacting the cultivation as well as it is impacting uh, the outcome from the cultivation. Okay, and I mean, we have the habit of making clean all the areas. We'll be cutting down all the grasses or the hedges, and all the farms will be making it neat. We'll be clearing out all the weeds. Okay, so these are the places most of the insects will be growing. So when you are clearing out all these things, your habitat will be, I mean, there the insect habitat will be losing. So finally, they'll be struggling to survive that areas. Okay, and also the public concern about bees. Okay, so people having some natural fear against bees. Okay, whenever you're finding some beehives in a building or somewhere. Okay, so the first thing people try to do is they'll be trying to burn it out, that the beehives, or they'll try to somehow they push them from that place to somewhere else. Okay, so that the things still we have to try to do. Okay, so and that is the public concern about bees. Okay, another thing is the widespread aerial spraying for mosquitoes. Okay, especially during the some the diseases outbreak or something, so we'll try to the kill all the mosquitoes in that area. Okay, so we are using a lot of the spraying, a lot of fogging, all that thing. So it is not only affecting mosquitoes, okay, but also affecting the small insects in that area. So these are the some of the major threats. Okay, so most of them you will be knowing it. Okay. So the I'll be trying to end with some the conservation activities. Okay. Then I mean, if you are having the questions, then we'll be taking that questions. Okay. So the you got to know what are the importance of the pollinators. Okay, so how important they are, how commercially important they are, how important they are for, I mean, in the ecosystem. Okay, now as a individual or as a I mean, element in the society, how we can the conserve them. Okay, so how we can conserve them, how we will be making sure that we are having a better future. Okay, so one of the main thing which we can do is, okay, so preserve their habitats. Okay, so I mean whenever you are the cutting down the plants or be clearing the open spaces, so I mean the be careful. Okay, wherever possible, you try to preserve all these the habitat. Okay, so you'll try to have better, I mean, the eco-friendly development. Okay, so that generally we'll be calling it as sustainable development. Okay, I mean, we now need to have development. Okay, but when we are developing, we will be ensuring that it is making very less impact on the environment. Okay, so we had to go for more sustainable development. Okay, and the sensible use of fertilizers and pesticides. Okay, some of the plantations and all may require some the fertilizers, and sometimes you may be recurring to control the pest also. Okay, but it should be more scientifically used. Okay, it should be more sensibly used. Okay, you have to use your common sense to make decision whether it will be affecting anybody else or any other plants or organism. So that you need to think before you are going for the fertilizers and pesticides. Okay, and the restoration of ecosystem. Okay, you can see that during the last 56 60 years, okay, the human activity on the earth has created a lot of changes on the face of earth. Okay, so we have increased the carbon dioxide the concentration in the environment, and we have the increased temperature. The global temperature is increasing, so it's a fact. Okay, so the global warming is a fact. So you need to have the restore this particular ecosystem. You need to restore this ecosystem. You need to preserve this ecosystem. So you need to have, I mean, the create awareness regarding this. So you need to have the more the activities to create awareness on these things. Okay, so these are the takes from my side. So if you are having any questions, we'll be taking that one.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. It's very interesting to know about pollinators, process of pollination, and how the pollinators affect the economic value of our India, and the methods for conservation, and a lot more several aspects covered in a short period. Now it's time to take up the questions. There are few questions asked by our viewers. Uh, First question, sir. How do animals specifically act as pollinators?
Animals. Okay, so the actually the mean some animals means it is not may not be big animals. Okay, but the some small the mammals like the squirrels, the bats, and or are directly the participating in pollination. So when I mean I told it is a indirect consequence. They are not directly going for pollination, but when they are looking for food in the flower plants or the fruits. Okay, so the pollens will be stuck into their bodies, and they'll be when they are going into the other flowers, so it will be transferring there. So that is how it is they are involving in the pollination.
Okay, sir. And the second question from other viewer is, how can we tell which flowers are pollinated by animals or by the wind?
Yeah, so actually we are told that there will be some co-evolution. Okay, some plants are evolved such a way that they'll be looking for a certain kind of pollinators. Okay, so we have seen that the some flowers having, I mean, if you are seeing that the flowers which are blooming at night usually will be having strong smell than the flowers which are blooming at the daytime. Okay, because the daytime you can use the color clues or the shape of the flowers and you can use. Okay, but at the night time you need to attract the pollinators from large distance by using some strong smell or something. So I mean they evolved such a way that the plants and the insects both they evolve such a way that they'll be helping each other. So it is actually co-evolution.
Okay, sir. And here is the third one. Is there any benefit of having a long proboscis or short proboscis during pollination?
No, I mean actually the if the some butterflies having very long pollination on the proboscis. Okay, so
Yes.
they may not be able to the sip from the flowers with a very short tube. Okay, so they may not it may not be suitable. Similarly, if there is a I mean the flower with a big pollen tube. Okay, the small butterflies can or the insects cannot go and suck the nectar from that. So there should be a certain kind of the the plants or flowers required for helping each other. Okay, so it is actually they are helping each other. It is a mutualism.
Okay, sir. What are the specific ways of conserving pollinators?
Yeah, specific ways means actually you need to mean the protect the nature in general. Okay, but the insects are more vulnerable, so you try to have less pesticides. Okay, you try to preserve your habitat. Okay, you try to create more awareness on this. Okay, and you use more scientific method to the in the while developing or while doing the development or going for major projects, you need to have more scientific study on it.
Okay, sir. Sir, would you be able to share any resources that are readily helpful for individuals to guide on species of plants for their own backyard, plants that would attract and support our pollinators?
Yeah, I mean the one or two things there. So one thing is actually you need not go for any exotic plant. Okay, so any foreign plants. Okay, so I mean it is always better to have the locally available plants for the in that particular region. Okay, so that will be helping the ecosystem better than you than introducing some foreign plants. Okay, so you can the look around and you can the select based on your area. So there are a lot of plants the available in the nurseries in the your localities. So most of the time you will be able to pick them. Okay, so there are some website to the check for the plants which are available. Okay, but my suggestion is always go for the local plants or the plants available in this your region. So that is the better one for the ecosystem.
Okay, sir. Sir, there is another question raised by a viewer. Are there rescuers in India who come to your house and relocate bees without setting fires or killing bees in this process?
Yeah, so you need to check for your local area. So generally, the forest department and all helping in most of the states. Okay, and there are some states having some helpline. Okay, but usually the forest department will be trying to help you. So you contact the nearest forest office. So they'll be trying to help you. So they'll be having some trained people, or they'll be having some contact of such people. So you can always try to move the bees without killing them.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Learned a lot from you from this informative session. Thank you all for joining the webinar. A special thanks to our speaker, Mr. Haneesh K.M, and the participants for joining the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for giving an opportunity. So thank you, Indira Gandhi Zoological Park, Visakhapatnam, for giving me an opportunity. And thank you all the listeners. Okay, so have a nice day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Hanish. This is Nandini Salaria this side,
Yeah. Okay,
curator
thank you.
of Vizag Zoo. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting session. I think this
Okay,
is the
thank you.
first time we've been talking about pollinators as such through a webinar or something. So it was very interesting listening to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Looking forward to have some more interesting sessions in the future.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you, madam.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Then I leave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.